bandido acaba, Pedro. Um embaixo da terra, ou aqui. Olha. Olha, porra, presta atenção. Tá vendo? Eu lutei contra a cocaína minha vida inteira. O que eu não sabia é que ela ia tirar o meu filho de mim.
Ser feliz, andar tranquilamente na favela onde eu nasci.
Eu sou policial! O que tu quer, caralho? Eu quero meu filho! Eu só quero o Pedro!
Tá fazendo aqui, pai? Vai embora, porra, eu tô bem!
Eu não vou embora sem você!
Vai embora, pai! Não, 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 não!
Pedro! Pedro!
Tu gosta do teu velho?
Pai é o cara mais foda que eu já conheci. Só não consegui ficar preso.
Um cara bonito, inteligente. Faz o teu dinheiro. Tu vai poder fazer o que tu quiser.
Eu quis salvar o país. E eu não olhei pro meu próprio filho.
A porra do esquema não ficar profissional.
Liberdade se compra como qualquer outra coisa.
Agora tu tá com cara de ser quem tu é.
Eu sou o quê?
Você é meu filho. É um pedaço de mim. Não vou desistir de você. Nunca.
Bora.
Você viu a quantidade de droga que tá entrando? E tá só começando.
Você tá caindo num abismo! Se eu quiser morrer, que eu morra! É um marginal!
Qual é mesmo o seu nome?
Pedro Dom, meu nome.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cherry the Geek TV. I'm Joe Vinorni. Amazon Prime Video's first scripted series from Brazil, Dom, is a crime drama inspired by the true story of a father and son on opposite sides of the war on drugs in Rio de Janeiro. It premieres globally on Amazon Prime Video June 4th. And today we have the director of Dom, Breno Silveira, and Pedro Dom himself, the star of the show, Gabriel Leone. Gentlemen, welcome to Cherry the Geek TV. Breno, we'll start with you. What was it about this story that attracted you to the project?
Well, I think that right now we are seeing a boom of trafficking, drug trafficking stories and shows and movies. And when I heard this story, I heard it from Victor, from the father. And Victor told me the story 12 years ago when Pedro had just died due to drugs. So this story somehow seemed different because I had a more human point of view. It wasn't something between drug cartels. It was a father and son. A father who is incredible. It's insane to think that you have a son who's a bad guy and the father is a cop, and they're both totally involved with drugs. And when I met this father, he was extremely frustrated because he hadn't only lost his son to drugs, but also everything that he did to fight against drugs had been in vain. So I think that we talk about drugs in the show, we talk about everything, but we also show how much that impacted both of these people's lives and how difficult it is to do something about that whole drug issue. We don't judge it. We invite people to reflect upon it. upon this context.
And Gabriel, what were your thoughts when you first became aware of the project? Were you aware of the real life character that you ended up portraying? Were you aware of that story? How did you get involved?
Well, when this happened in real life, I was very young, so I don't remember, even though it happened here in my city. But my parents, for example, they do remember him. This is a very famous story. And the first time that I heard about it was through Breno. He invited me to talk about this project, and my first reaction was I was scared because each story was like crazier than the others, so it was hard to believe that everything had happened. And the most surreal, absurd stories that you'll see in the show, those are the most real stories that actually happened. The rest are just there to make up the script. Because, I mean, Breno had access to someone who actually lived this, who witnessed this. So at first I was scared, but then I was fascinated because it's like what Breno said. Because of the idea behind making this. It wasn't just something about a gang that was into drugs or a drug addict. This is a very complex story. It's a show that includes politics, the social aspects from the arrival of cocaine into Brazil and all the transformations that happen in society. This is also something that talks about family, the relationship between a father and son. And drugs are kind of in the middle of that. We have first a son who's a drug addict and a father who fights against drugs his whole life. So this is a completely fascinating story, especially if we think about it from the human aspect. As an actor, being able to interpret Pedro, someone that has so many layers and so many different characteristics and interesting characteristics, that for me was fascinating.
Breno, what were some of the challenges that you faced directing this? Because it's an epic saga. It takes place over multiple decades, starts in the 1969, goes through the 70s, through the 80s, through the 90s, into the 2000s. The way it's edited, you jump back and forth between the decades. Sometimes in the middle of the same scene, you'll have the son in one decade, the father in another decade, and you jump back and forth in one scene. Was the show conceived that way from the beginning, from like day one, that you were going to be jumping back and forth, or was it originally conceived that you were going to tell the story chronologically, and then as you were in the editing process, you decided that it would be better editing wise to jump back and forth? Tell me a little bit about that, how that whole thing came about.
No, not at all. That was a crazy challenge. I had never faced anything like that. I didn't know how to tell the story. There were so many different stories involved. And if you walked into my writing room, there were 4 writers, but we had writing all over the walls. There was a decade here, a character there. So our intention was to cross all of these, and it wasn't possible. So in the first script, second script, it was 2 years of writing scripts, changing things from one place to another. And then we opened that third part, which is Pedro's childhood, and that made us that just complicated everything even more. It was a huge puzzle. I thought it was going to work because the script was very good. But when I got to editing, I thought, this didn't work. And then we had to say, okay, well, grab that scene from that episode and put it in the third episode, grab this other scene and put it in the last episode. So we did this 2, 3, 4 times, and the pandemic kind of helped us because we had more time to do all of this editing, and that actually was good for us. And I was leaving a set from the 70s, and remember that none of the characters, we don't repeat them, but they're still playing the same characters. It was crazy. We had a lot of different assistants, everyone thinking about a different decade and thinking about the different scenes and characters and trying to join all of that, put it all together. So it was incredible. I didn't know what a showrunner was, and now I think I understand a little bit what this job is all about. But yes, it was crazy. I thought that it was never going to end, but thankfully, I think that the final product does mix all those lines very well.
Well, the final product, it's amazing. The way it's directed, it's so well directed. The editing's fantastic. It's like masterful editing. The way you jump back and forth. I've been talking praise about this to everybody after I watched this. That when this drops on the 4th, that they've got to watch this because it's just wonderful. You did a fantastic job with this. I got to tell you.
Oh, please don't say that. That is amazing to hear, especially coming from LA, which is the capital of all of this. Thank you so much. I'm very proud that I achieved that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Gabriel, talk about the challenges that you faced as an actor.
Well, something that I understood right off the bat was that this character was always under the influence of cocaine. And remember, I said that he's a very complex character. He also was this person, he didn't feel any physical pain, so he was addicted to adrenaline, this adrenaline rush. And so, yeah, he was always looking for adrenaline. The robberies, for example, it was more about feeling alive and feeling that adrenaline rush than actually achieving or getting money. He wasn't really into material wealth that much. So something that I noticed before we started filming was that I needed to find within my body and train myself in order to get into that energy, because it wasn't just one scene like, oh, okay, I'm going to do this scene like that. No, it was 4 months working like that, and sometimes an entire day or all night. So I knew that I needed some trigger inside of me so that I could always go back to that energy, go back to that place. And that was quite challenging. I had to do that work with myself before the scenes. And I think Breno he managed to orchestrate everything very well. We had some times that we had 400, 500 extras. And it could be like a show or a scene of a show, but we needed to see every little detail in that scene, every detail of the characters. And that shows Breno's directing style. He's present in every scene. He works closely with directors, with the actors. And it's like he said, it was a huge project, all these different timelines, but he was always concerned with what was happening in terms of the human aspect. And that was very important to me.
Well, we're almost out of time, but before we go, I wanted to ask you about the sex scenes in this, because there's a sex scene in episode 2 that's just insane. I mean, good Lord, man. And then episode 4, there's a threesome that's just crazy. As an actor, Gabriel, what's it like to film these sex scenes like that? Is it fun, or is it awkward? Is it embarrassing? Does it make you nervous? What's the process of that as an actor? And then Breno, as a director, staging these sex scenes, and you know, what's the process going in like that?
Well, I can speak for myself. I think that all of the sex scenes that are in the show, they were very organic. They're very connected to the personality of the characters, to the reason why we got there. So I don't think there was any sex scene just to have a sex scene, or to show or sell bodies, or to make it more sexual. No, all those scenes are there to add to the personality and to that crazy moment that the characters are living there. And Breno did a fantastic work. Everything was very well choreographed, well timed. So I think that for us and for the girls, for me and for the girls, we were never embarrassed. Actually, everything was very professional, the way that it has to be. Yeah. A sex scene is always difficult. It's a taboo, but I always tell my actors that they have to go to, I mean, they can't cross their own boundaries, right? I think that they're beautiful because they're different. When you have Victor in the past, I mean, I remember that Victor had told me that those people had grabbed him and like hooked up with him, and he had no choice because the woman was beautiful. He said that he felt like James Bond of the tropics, and he said that it was an incredible experience. So all of the sex scenes have to do with what was told by Victor. I know that Dom and the three girls had a lot of fun. They kind of lived their own life, and I would tell them about that and see what happened. And all these scenes were very organic, and I think the scenes are beautiful, absolutely beautiful, because we started, I mean, sex has so much taboo nowadays, and it's actually, these scenes are part of the story and part of these characters. So I was very happy because I don't think that they're out of line. Actually, someone said, oh, maybe you can remove 2-3 minutes of this sex scene and 15 seconds of that sex scene, and Amazon said no. Those sex scenes are extremely interesting. They're very real. They're very original. So just leave them there for the amount of time that the director finds necessary.
Well, again, we're going to wrap it up, but I just wanted to tell you that the final product is amazing. It's one of the best things I've seen on TV this year. It's up there with Mare of Easttown and WandaVision and Them. It's one of the best shows so far this year. I can't recommend it highly enough. Dom comes on Amazon Prime Video globally on Friday, June 4th. Got a little bit of everything. There's cocaine in there. There's sex. There's beautiful scenery. There's a family story with a father and a son, threesomes, more cocaine. It's got a little bit of everything. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for chatting with us today on Cherry the Geek TV. Appreciate it. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.